Joan, I see some breaking news on CNN.
Which is?
Judge orders Trump administration to restart SNAP benefits.
And so here's the thing. The Trump administration said that they would start partial payments.
Partial payments.
Because that's all the money that's in that fund, the rainy day fund, whatever.
Yeah.
But now this judge is saying that he's got to fully restart SNAP payments.
We've got to find the money from somewhere. And
but so they're appealing. The Trump administration.
So the Trump administration is appealing.
Yeah. This is another one of those things that'll go all the way up the chain to the Supreme Court again for an emergency consideration.
Yeah.
Just to haul off these federal judges.
Part of me, you know what the thing is though? Part of me wonder, and just go with me here.
Yeah.
So President Trump is being accused of, all kinds of nefarious things, trying to keep the government closed and taking away people's SNAP benefits and all of that. Just from the power of politics and the chess match that is politics, maybe Trump should just go ahead and fund the SNAP benefits for a month. And that way, it's like, all right, Democrats, listen, I'm funding as a show of good faith. I'm going to go ahead and find the money. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fund the SNAP benefits in its entirety. And if Democrats will just simply reopen the government and Trump do it on his own so that it doesn't sound like a judge made him do it. And then that sort of pushes the Democrats to try to reopen the government or to force the Democrats to vote to reopen the government. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that a part of this is a narrative battle.
I think there's an opportunity for Eric and Don Jr. to make a donation to that fund that then people would have to thank Trump's sons.
Yeah, the Trump sons. Well, how much do we pay? I know I've talked about this before. How much do we pay in SNAP benefits across the country? Like, I mean, it's adding all the states and so forth. I mean, I think it's billions of dollars. I think it is. So I don't know. We already a donor of Trump, who I forget who the name is, but already paid for the military for a month. So the military is getting a check. You have that, Joan?
The total federal spending on SNAP benefits?
Yeah.
$100 billion.
$100 billion. Okay. That's a lot of money. I don't think Trump wants to spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that there might be an opportunity here for the president to say, I don't need a judge I'm thinking of messaging here. Because remember, the messaging of the Republicans hasn't been great. I'm just going to tell you. So maybe the messaging is, you know what? I don't need a judge to do this. I'm going to go ahead and, we're going to find the money and we're going to find a way to get this done. But I need the Democrats to come to the table. From a PR, if you will, from a PR standpoint, maybe that's what the president does. I don't know how they're going to be able to figure this out. If I remember correctly, the Trump administration has basically said without the government being open, there's no way to actually get the money to the states. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how this whole thing works out.
I would love for him to do that, to get the SNAP payments made.
Right.
And then hold a press conference. You know how the press will chisel around everything he says to not include the things that, mean something. Then have him approach the podium and say, just SNAP benefits are paid, Democrats open the government, walk away from the podium, because that's the only thing that the press can put out there.
Right. That's right. So I don't know. I think the government shutdown, I think that, what day are we in now? Are we at we had the whole thing yesterday.
Let's go see here, Dan. It's been
I think we're at 38 days
in October.
Yesterday was 37 days.
Correct.
Even though Joan said it was 36.
I did.
I'm just kidding. You know what's funny, Joan? Real quick.
Yeah.
If people know what happened yesterday, I actually went back and watched that segment.
I know.
And I was like, holy darn, she was absolutely right. But then you went along with me and Sam.
Yeah, I gave in.
Yeah, I think it was Darth Vader that said, weak-minded fool.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, Joan. I'm totally kidding.
I just thought that if both of you thought the same way, that maybe I'm wrong.
So
never do that again.
now the question is, as we deal with, day 38 of the shutdown, there's a number of things that are going on. Number one, we did have the elections earlier this week. And, the more that I think about this, the more I do, and I think I said this yesterday, I really do see this as an opportunity. As an opportunity for the Democrats, I should say the Republicans, as an opportunity for the Republicans to really define the fight for the next year heading into the midterm elections. Because even if Donald Trump, and I'm just going to tell you, and I'm pretty sure I've been consistent with all of this, there's things that are still too high at the grocery store. Prices are still too high. They're not where Joe Biden was. That is a victory. But Trump, what he needs to do is have that incredible Donald Trump focus on trying to lower prices for the American people. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump can say until he's blue in the face that prices are lower. But if the perception from the American people is that prices are still too high, then he's got some work to do, regardless as to what Donald Trump says. And so I love what Scott Jennings had to say. I need some video here. I love what Scott Jennings said on CNN, where he says that the GOP, a number of things, needs to do better at turning out voters, which is absolute truth. But what he also says is, affordability is an issue.
Well, first of all, I think J.D. Vance is exactly right. They do have to talk about cost of living. They do have to talk about affordability. And he's right that voters will ultimately judge the party in power, the incumbent party, based on the health of the economy, macro and micro. People have to feel like you're on the right trajectory. So I think he's right about that. I think he's right that Republicans are better off to dump the infighting and focus on issues and what we need to do to succeed. And he's certainly correct about this turnout issue. We still have an unproven situation out there about a lot of people who love Donald Trump but don't yet love to turn out when he's not on the ballot. So all these things are correct, and I agree with him. It's, you don't want to run around like chickens with your head cut off when something bad happens, but at the same time, you do want to learn from situations, and I think there's probably some things to be learned last night about candidate quality and the way we're running campaigns in certain places. But we have to remember, these are blue states, very blue states. Democrats won in blue states, and so overreacting and being overly emotional is probably not a great thing today.
Yeah, and Scott Jennings is absolutely right. I played audio yesterday. I don't have it handy, but I played audio yesterday where Trump was saying, things are going great with the economy, and we don't do enough to talk about it. And I think that there's a lot of people that feel like the president might be trying to gaslight them. I'm just being honest. Remember, you always got to read the tea leaves. You know what I'm talking about? You always got to read what is going on. And, whenever I have or had, failures in my past, and this week with the election, even though they were blue states, as I said, and as Scott Jennings says, you use this as sort of, okay, this is an opportunity. They're telegraphing. The American people could be telegraphing where they think our country is. And if it's all going to hinge on affordability, then, friends, this is an opportunity for the president to hyper-focus not only on trying to lower the cost of stuff, but also to work on that messaging. Now, as I said the other day, my Lord, if people are complaining about the economy and where it is right now and the price of things, I totally get it. I absolutely get it. And I'm not dismissing what you're saying. But I'm going to keep saying until I'm blue in the face or red in the face because I'm a Republican or a conservative. Listen, remember how bad it was under Joe Biden. And by the way, here's the other thing to remember, that with Joe Biden, there were things that Joe Biden literally did to cause inflation to go up. With all of that government spending, putting all of that money artificially into the economy. And that led to prices going up. That led to that rampant inflation up over 9%. So Joe Biden actually caused prices to go up. That is a big difference between what Donald Trump has been doing or trying to do, where he is trying to lower the cost of goods and services. There's work to do yet, as I've been saying, but this is an opportunity. So, shut up, Joan. See, now I'm like, oh, why doesn't Dan want to go to church with Joan? It has nothing to do with anything other than your church, which I really like your church, Joan. Way too far away from my house. Mm-hmm. Way too. But I like Alan Jackson. I've talked about Pastor Alan Jackson. I want to get him on the podcast with me and Chris. That's what I really want to do. Yeah, I actually told. Do you know what I think? I think Chris, like many people in my life, I think he just yeses me. Right. Because I said I said 3-4 podcasts ago, I said, I want Pastor Alan Jackson. I'm a new fan of World Outreach Church and Pastor Alan Jackson. I'm a new fan, and I want to get him on our podcast and have just a great, wide-ranging conversation.
Okay, so I had him on last year when I was filling in for, I guess it was for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So here's all you have to do. Go to church with, this is how I got him. Go to church with me.
Yeah.
After the service is over, you just go down and talk to him, and he says, okay, yeah, sure. He's so easy.
Well, then explain to me why it is that Chris hasn't gotten him on for a podcast yet.
Well, it's Chris Hand.
I think Chris secretly hates me. Anyway, moving on. I'm just kidding. I absolutely adore Chris Hand. He's awesome. All right, moving right along. So speaking of Scott Jennings, because he was talking about the Republicans, and I've been talking about this for a while now, but they do need to focus on not only from a policy standpoint, but from a messaging standpoint on trying to lower costs for the American people. Now, one of the other things, just talking about the government shutdown, Obamacare, I know that we've all been talking, well, I think most of us have been talking about this. I don't listen to all the shows all the time, but we've all been talking about the shutdown, right? And it all ultimately comes back down to Obamacare and how bad Obamacare really is. Well, Jennings was on a panel over there again on CNN where they're actually trying to make the claim, believe it or not, they made the claim on CNN that Obamacare lowered the prices of health care for the American people. Now, y'all know that clearly is not true. It's like more gaslighting from Democrats. Listen.
I don't think anybody wins these things. And I actually think a year from now, it'll be, long in the past. People won't really be thinking about it. I mean, I don't really understand what I think they got into this mess because of pressure from the left. Chuck Schumer is having a meltdown because AOC is threatening to primary him. They don't really know how to get out of it. I mean, after all, Obamacare is a Democrat law. The subsidies are a Democrat idea, and the sunset was put in the law by Democrats. You want to make it into a Republican problem. This is a Democrat health care debacle that you want to throw onto someone else.
Thank you for admitting that we lowered costs of health care.
You're saying, whoa. You're saying Obamacare lowered health care costs in America?
I think we made it more affordable, and because of the subsides.
I love this. Jennings is looking up at the stars. He's looking up saying, oh, my Lord, somebody get me off the gaslighting bus. I mean, because that's what they're trying to do. Do you know that I don't know if I've ever, Joan, have you ever met anyone who has had a positive experience with Obamacare? Like, I have not met one person that has had, and I know a lot, I used to know more people, but I still know some people, but nobody has ever said that they have had a positive experience with Obamacare. Not one.
I've even had a doctor, my husband's doctor.
Yep.
Quit the profession, retired because of Obamacare.
Retired because of Obamacare.
Yeah.
Do you know other? I think Scott Desjardins had a similar sort of. I seem to recall him because he's a doctor, and I seem to recall him saying somewhat the same thing, just where Obamacare made it really, really difficult to even practice medicine. Mm-hmm. And so for the Democrats to sit here and say, "Oh, well, Obamacare lowered costs for everybody. Oh, and by the way, not even just conveniently." Not going down the road of one of the greatest political lies in the history of political lies. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. That also was a lie. So I think that the Republicans are on the right track on this, where I think that they need to keep pointing out, as Scott Jennings did, that Obamacare is, well, it's Obamacare. It was a Democrat thing. Republicans didn't vote for it. Republicans didn't want it. They never, and I said this till I'm blue in the face, and I said it during Trump's first administration, where you keep having, during Trump's first administration, right, repeal and replace, but they never brought forward a replacement. They just never did. I remember one time, and I lost my ever-loving mind right here on the air, Donald Trump said, next week you're going to see the replacement plan. Next week you're going to see it. Do you remember that, folks? He actually, and nothing ever came of that. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Why does he keep saying this? And so I've always said, if the Republicans can come up with a plan to fix Obamacare, to make it lower for folks, because that's what the problem is. And every time that I bring up Obamacare, the super text line goes crazy, or if I've got the phone lines open, the phone lines literally explode with people talking about the train wreckery that is Obamacare and how they ended up having to pay double, triple what they had to pay before Obamacare. Now, I do understand that some people that are, the absolute poorest among us, well, okay, then they essentially got it for free. Okay, fine. That's great for them, but what about the taxpayers? That's my problem.
It is lower.
Is this lightning proof?
It's
access. Honestly, you think health care in America is cheaper since Obamacare?
We have increased access to Americans, and the subsidies were supposed to.
You said cheaper.
Oh, wow. So you heard what you said. We have increased. Let's just peel that back for a second. And I don't know who this woman is, but she said we have increased access to health care. I think she said for Americans, whatever. But you know who you've increased access to? Illegal aliens. Do you know who you've increased access to? People that could get their asses out there and work. That is who you have increased access to. And who's paying the ultimate price? The American people who are now forced to pay this exorbitant amount of money for health care, so that you're ultimately paying for all of these other people that are either illegally in this country or, I'm going to air quote this, lawfully present, or people that could be out there trying to work. And by the way, all of this goes back to there's the original subsidies within Obamacare. And by the way, here's a clue. If you need subsidies to run anything, then maybe you might want to take a second look at it. But the subsidies that the Republicans are trying to kill with Obamacare are the second set of subsidies that were put forward during COVID, which is long since gone. So as Bill Maher said, and I played you the audio earlier, it's a bait and switch from the Democrats. I'm all mad this morning now, Joan.
Sorry.
You know what? I don't like when...
Need some coffee. Need a shot of liquor.
According to people on the super text line, I've already had way too much coffee today.
I see.
And that's fine. That's been a familiar comment from people on the super text line this week. I don't know why. I feel like I've just been doing everything that I always do, but people are saying for whatever reason I'm a wee bit more jacked up this week. I don't know why. Whatever. I promise you I'm not doing cocaine. So, Joan, you asked the proper pronunciation of Lafayette.
Lafayette. Did I get it right?
It depends on who you ask.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it depends on how you ask.
I would say Lafayette, but I'm a northerner.
I've heard it so many different ways, and I've kind of given up on trying to make everybody happy with how I say stuff. Yeah. So, but whatever.
So I have to tell you that I know a little bit more now.
What's going on over there?
So they're saying that there was a shots fired call near that intersection, and so police responded. The officers have established a command at the scene. This is according to Fox 17. They are on the scene. And of course, as you know, that right in that area, you've got the bus stop. Yep. The homeless shelter is there.
It's not a great area.
It's not. And there's also a hotel. So
pretty sure it's probably a motel, but whatever.
Okay. Yeah, probably.
Moving right along.
Okay. So that's what's happening downtown there. And
so we have another person randomly firing bullets in Nashville? Because we just had this a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so I'm also looking at the map right now. 6th Avenue South is also a mess, along with the intersection there at 4th and Lafayette. Yeah. So, there's going to be difficulty getting anywhere in that area today. You got to stay away from 4th and 5th right there around Lafayette. It's going to be a mess. Yeah, the heavy police presence there. We don't know what is what the current situation is on the ground, but I'm going to keep on top of it. Okay. Looks like Fox 17 is down there, so I'll check in with them. All right, and just so folks know, we had this conversation about the guy that
shot up Nashville a couple of days ago. Earlier,
just with his gun hanging out the window of his car
in the broadcast. Yeah, he wanted to. She went down to Laverne, went into Nashville, and just shooting around and holding the gun out there just to scare people is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out the guy was an illegal alien. ICE now
just knew it.
Yeah, ICE has now ICE has a hold on him. So do you think the local authorities will keep this guy while ICE goes to pick him up, or are they going to let him out? Because that's what the local authorities will do.
I think you'll probably find Afton Bain there saying, "No, stay away."
Oh. Yeah, he's on probation for theft charges out of Rutherford and Wilson County. So I think that probation will be the detainer. Metro won't bother with it.
Here's the deal. Dude needs to be either brought up in charges or deported or whatever. But, and I had some fun earlier talking about this. I'm not going to repeat the bit, but I mean, this is exactly the kind of person that the Democrats and people like Afton Bain are trying to protect. This is the kind of person. So when ICE and all the other authorities are trying to do whatever they can to clean up the streets and get illegal aliens like this guy out of our community. Can you imagine if and I've said this 1,000 times and I'm going to move on, but can you imagine? So you've got ICE driving around Nashville and in Tennessee, and they're trying to pick up, bad guys like this, like the guy from a couple of days ago, and people like Afton Bain. She was on her socials, and she was, in her own words, bullying ICE, and basically she was telling people where ICE was on her socials, basically following them around. And there's no way to prove this. But what if somebody ends up getting killed, an innocent person ends up getting killed by one of these illegal aliens that Afton Bain and people of her ilk protected? That is a very real possibility. So all I'm saying is, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, is that there's a very important congressional race, the 7th congressional district, between Afton Bain and Matt Van Epps. And you just got to decide for yourselves. And I know most of us here are conservatives, so it's Matt Van Epps for most of us, I assume. But, I mean, if you're just listening for the first time and you're sort of, a political independent, I would really encourage you to think about what kind of community you want.
Yeah.
Because Van Epps is trying to, and our conservative opinions are that we need to clean up the streets of Nashville, the streets of Memphis, and the streets of America from criminals, illegal aliens and illegal gang members and all that kind of stuff. And Afton Bain, she wants to protect and coddle those people. That's all I'm saying.
And instead of having a open discussion about it, her and Jasmine Crockett would rather have a private town hall, he said with air quotes.
When is that? Is that tonight?
Today. Well, no, it's not tonight, because they assume that, during the work week, people are free from noon to 2:30.
Right.
To pay to be somewhere.
Between noon and 2:30? Did we ever figure out how much that thing is?
No, because you have to put your name. So they want all your information and how much you're going to donate before they'll give you, I guess, the information and a pass to be there. And it's only limited to like 200 people.
So Jasmine Crockett and Afton Bain are holding what they called was a town hall. We talked about this a couple of days ago. They're calling it a town hall, but it's really not a town hall. It's a
paid-for echo chamber.
It's a paid-for echo chamber, and you got about 200 people. They're going to have microphones, and they're going to stand up, and they're going to say, "Oh, we love you," and isn't Donald Trump a Nazi? And everybody's going to go, "Yay!" Because that's what they do.
And how do we trans the kids more? And what do we do about abortion in this state?
That's going to be the conversation, no doubt. Donald Trump was there's going to do a little fun with audio here, because I haven't heard all of this audio, but Donald Trump is out there talking, and he's talking about Obamacare, and he's talking about the Democrats and how the Democrats want to keep the government shut down.
We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask.
He's talking about Obamacare.
It to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And It's many times the number of people are on. This wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people that had real problems, in many cases people that were down and out, people that could be saved. It wasn't meant for people that could do whatever they want, the people that say, well, I don't think I'll work, I'll just, collect this money. Take a look at the number of what it was during my administration and what it was during the Biden administration. It went up many, many times my first term.
And that is actually Donald Trump talking about food stamps and SNAP and all that kind of stuff. And again, the developing story this morning where the Supreme Court is apparently demanding that Donald Trump do I have that right? Is it the Supreme Court that is demanding that Trump pay? No. Who is it, Joan?
It's a federal judge.
Federal judge, yep. Of course. That's right. Federal judge is now saying it's going to go probably up to the Supreme Court. Federal judge is now ruling that Donald Trump must pay full SNAP benefits. I guess it's as soon as possible. He's already made a partial payment. Federal judge. So we'll keep an eye on that story. There's a lot going on this morning as far as the news goes. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. I want to play because, one of the things that I've thought has been really interesting through all of this is that you have the Democrats, and they're all over the place on this filibuster. And obviously, this is something that continues to be a conversation. Should the Republicans in the Senate eliminate the filibuster to get the government back open? And so you have now the Democrats, and they're just falling all over themselves saying, oh, no, we have to have the filibuster, right? Because the Democrats are filibustering to keep the government closed right now. Well, it wasn't just a few years ago that Hakeem Jeffries told none other than Al Sharpton that the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. That's right.
Congressman, you tweeted yesterday that the filibuster is a racially tinged artifact of the Jim Crow era. We cannot let it stand in the way of progress.
High priority issues for the American people that are being held up in the Senate right now because of the presence of the filibuster.
So basically, here's what happens. And look, Republicans are guilty of this, too. I mean, they're doing it right now. Where the party that's in, I think Brian and I spoke about this, the party that is not in power traditionally loves the filibuster. And then once they get into power, suddenly they hate the filibuster because, the other party that was that did have the majority does not have the majority. And now they're using the filibuster. In other words, whoever has the majority in the Senate hates the filibuster. And whoever is not in the majority loves the filibuster, right? So this is Hakeem Jeffries. Clearly, he loves the filibuster now, but during this time, he's talking about Donald Trump. He's talking about how when the Democrats had the majority in the Senate.
And so a minority of senators are allowed to block progress for the majority of the American people. And that's something that has to change. Filibuster was first deployed by Senator Calhoun in the run-up to the Civil War.
Do you know what Donald Trump should do if he hasn't done this already? Because now Hakeem Jeffries, I'm going to play this real quick. So now Hakeem Jeffries is going to talk about whatever pretzel logic he's going to use to say that the filibuster is, racially tinged and from the Jim Crow era. Donald Trump should take this and post it up on True Social and tell the Republicans, okay, Republicans, listen, Hakeem Jeffries says that this is racially tinged and a relic of the Jim Crow era. So then maybe in respect of Hakeem Jeffries, we need to go ahead and eliminate the filibuster in honor of Hakeem Jeffries.
To try to protect white supremacy as well as the institution of slavery. And then in terms of its modern form, it was really deployed in the early part of the 20th century to stop civil rights legislation, including anti-lynching legislation that passed the House of Representatives in the early part of the 20th century, but could never break through a Senate filibuster. And that is part of the legacy of the absence of progress that we're still living with to this day.
You know, I love how Hakeem Jeffries is like, oh, the absence of progress. You know what they're talking about when they talk about progress? Voter ID. About how Republicans want voter ID and Democrats don't want voter ID. Essentially, whenever Democrats talk about progress, they always talk about, you know, all of those DEI initiatives. That's what Hakeem Jeffries is talking about. But here's the deal. Is that for the Republicans, if that's the way that the Democrats feel, in solidarity, in a rare sign of solidarity, Republicans and Democrats, maybe what we do need to do is eliminate the filibuster. Because, I mean, listen, Hakeem Jeffries, that's what the man says. So that's what we need to do, is eliminate the filibuster.